What is up, fantasy football fanatics? It's your man Jordan Rains. Thank you for joining me on the channel. I'm joined today by my compadre, Andrew Hall. We are going to be talking NFL all day, both ways, offense, defense. Good morning, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Jordan. Always a pleasure to talk to you, especially about the football. I mean, again, this is the prime off-season window for football. So I'm excited to be here and just happy to be talking football any time of day. So this is good times.
Yeah, and this is a new endeavor. NFL all day is not necessarily new, but it's still growing, and this is a good time to explore things like this. The off season, we're right after the draft. We're not really into camp yet, so we're the teams are kind of solidified, so we can begin to do what we really do. Pontificate, speculate. You know what I mean? And look around and see what's out there that helps us get more involved. So. You wanted to talk today about some specific things around NFL all day, and I'm kind of the newbie to it. So you wanted to talk about playbooks on this specific show. Is there anything you want to tell the people before we jump into playbooks? Again, as the newbie here, I've seen there was one that dropped this last week, and I did take a look. It's kind of like a little adventure, it looks like, they send you on.
That's actually a good way to put it. Playbooks are in kind of a way, I guess, or one way that I look at playbooks is that it's like fantasy for these moments, right? So you obviously you have fantasy football, you go draft all these players and you get the moments and you win the titles and all these things, right? NFL all day, you get to collect these moments that you see on the screen every week. You get to collect the moments you watch in the stadium. You get to own that moment and be a part of that history. And then the playbooks are how you utilize those moments. So I actually wrote an article on Dynasty Pros last week too, where it was more about what can you do with these moments? Obviously, owning the moment is fun by itself, and having a part of history and all that stuff is nice. But now having the actual utility of them is where playbooks really make this whole kind of platform stand out. We'll obviously be getting into a lot more of that down the road, but for today at least, I wanted to at least mention, this new playbook that dropped as a daily playbook, which is a new one. It's definitely not something we've seen before. Most of the time, playbooks have a series of things you need to do by a certain deadline, as in, submit a moment that is a rookie debut, or submit a moment that is a rare debut, or something like, submit a moment from a team that was rare that played in the playoffs, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
This one is kind of different because each day is a different task. And for the most part, the tasks are pretty straightforward and pretty easy. And as a new collector, it might be a way to say, okay, well, I was looking at buying some new moments. I don't know which ones to get. There's, hundreds of them on the site. I don't know where to go. Well, in this case, you can go to the daily playbook, open it up and say, okay, well, today I'm supposed to submit a wide receiver or a tight end. Great. I don't have any of those in my collection. So let me go check out some wide receiver moments and see if there's any in there that I want to get. There's a lot of moments still right now at that $2, $3 mark, and you can kind of find some cheap ones. I know Nick Westbrook-Akine, players you've heard of in fantasy, but you really don't want to start. Those moments are pretty cheap, and that works to satisfy this playbook. So that's kind of where I wanted to go into this a little bit, at least today, to talk some more about playbooks and get people understanding how this becomes like fantasy in a way and can become part of the gamification of the platform.
Yeah, I'm actually on your Twitter page right now trying to find that article so I can pull it up. But I guess I'll just go to the website. You said it was Dynasty Pros?
Yeah, Dynasty Pros FF, I think is the website.
Yeah, I might be
Dynasty Pros Football. I'm sorry, I'm putting it up right now. But where I'm going with this too is I wrote this article about playbooks because I feel like it needs to be discussed a little bit more. We talk about it a lot in the Discord. Anyone who's listening right now, please come join the Discord for all day. It's terrific. There's a ton of fun in there. There's a ton of chat and stuff. You get to verify your moments. Once you verify, you unlock a bunch of new channels and things like that. But the main idea here is you get to use your moments for something that makes more fun. And then you get rewarded at certain points for whatever kind of yards you get during the playbook. At this week, actually, or this playbook that they're doing is, I think it's 15 individual 10-yard moments or 10-yard challenges. And then what you get to do is at 100 yards, you get a legacy moment from DeAndre Hopkins. At 140, you get a moment from Aaron Donald, just for participating in the playbook. There's even a $5 Dapper credit at one point. So this playbook is entirely free to do. The only thing you need is moments to actually submit. So of course you might have to buy a new moment, but for instance, if there's a moment where you need a kicker and you might have a kicker and you're like, great, I have a kicker. I don't need to buy that one, right? But it's a way to help new users grow their collection and to give them an idea of how they can utilize these moments for these challenges in this daily playbook.
Well, and like you said, it gives you a way. It sounds like it gives you a way to handle moments or acquire moments without buying them. You know what I mean? And again,
well, you do have to buy the moment, right? You have to buy the moment to submit it as part of the playbook. But then you win these moments for free. Correct.
Yeah, exactly. So you use moments you've already bought to unlock special new moments. It's kind of like upgrading, like in a video game, you might upgrade your weapon. So you might have like, I don't know, I'm talking, I've watched my son play Minecraft. I've never done it, but you might take, two brown bricks and get a silver brick. You know what I mean? I mean,
Right.
that seems like the general concept. So I like that, and that's something we all kind of understand, taking things that we've had for a while. Maybe I've had a moment, maybe I have duplicates, maybe I have 6 of the exact same Mike Evans moments. You know what
Right.
I mean? And for me, the most valuable thing to do, obviously, is keep one near and dear to my heart because Mike Evans is a boss. But if I
Sure.
need to unlock something else, I have that ability, and I might get something that no one else has. So that
One.
sounds like, and then it can go on the market, right? But the only way to get that specific moment is through the unlocking mechanism. Is that
That's
accurate?
correct. Yeah, and I want to clarify something too. There's two different kinds of challenges. There's submitting, where you just pretty much verify that you own the moment. It doesn't take it away from you, so you get to keep that Mike Evans moment, for instance. And if you have a Mike Evans moment, you don't lose that moment. You get to keep it in your collection, but you submit it saying, "Yes, I own this moment," and it gives you the yards. And then,
Mm,
because these are mint to completion playbook rewards, it only mints that many that collect that reach that level. So the more people that reach that level, the more people get that moment, right? But then you're exactly right. Now, once it's minted, it is now officially, it might be out of, a specific user count. Like it might be out of 4,610. That's how
mhm.
many people completed the DeAndre Hopkins level, right? So
Okay,
now you
so
have that moment out of 4,610 and you can send it on to someone else.
that's fascinating. So you could almost create little communities of people who, are big fans of certain players, and maybe you guys do have the corner on the Alvin Kamara moment market, just as an example, and you guys might decide that we're all going to, for this playbook, burn this to raise the floor of this, or maybe we want to create more of these specific moments. And that really does allow the fans and the people who own the moments, buy the moments, who participate to have a level of control over what comes into the ecosystem and what goes out of the ecosystem. So
That's exactly right.
I
Yeah. So
really like that.
let's get into the whole stuff of this, right? So we got to do our three downs and punt, right? That's what we're doing
Yep.
today. So first down, as we talked about a little bit already, is what are the playbooks, right? So for first down, we want to make sure that we discuss what these playbooks actually are. And so the playbooks themselves are just a collection of challenges, is really the easiest way to put it. And you said it before, like it was an adventure. This is a path to get to a goal.
Hmm.
Some of the challenges are really easy, some of them are really hard. I know for some of the playbooks last season, they would have three different difficulty levels, where there would be like a rookie, a pro, and an all pro.
Hmm.
And so the rookie challenges are pretty simple and straightforward. The pro challenges might be a little harder, required a lot more rare moments and harder to find things. And then the all pro would be legendary moments or full collections or full sets, things like that. So the playbooks are really varied and tiered based on your kind of collection, and allows you to see, well, if I get a rookie moment or if I get a rookie playbook and I can complete that, maybe that'll help grow my collection and allow me to get better at the pro playbook. And then what you're looking at here on the screen, and for those that are watching, this is the starter playbook. So this is something, again, if you're brand new to the platform and have never done moments or never really done collecting of this kind, or don't really know what a playbook is, this playbook helps walk you through the basic mechanics. And at the end of it, you get $10 to spend on whatever you want. So it costs you about $10 to get in the moment or to get in the playbook, and then you get that $10 back once you complete it. And the idea, again, is just to walk you through how the transactions work, to make sure that your wallet's all connected right, to make sure that you see how it works. But again, these playbooks are designed to utilize your moments that you're using, that you're collecting anyway. Think about it like cardboard. If there was a way I could take my cardboard cards and actually use them to get something else, that'd be really cool. And that's pretty much what the point of this is.
Yeah. Or I mean, taking it back to cards, Pokemon, I mean, you
Hmm.
might trade, a couple of Venusaurs for a Charizard, I mean, it's just
Right.
kind of what you decide. And instead of doing it with the kid next door pulling out of his pocket, they've put together this place where you can kind of interact with the community, but also the manufacturers, the creators, of this stuff, and you can turn it into them, and you can do swaps too. So that's pretty interesting. I like that. So you said that they did this drop this last week. Do you want to talk specifically about that drop and how
Well,
and why it came about, or how do you want to continue on here?
so there are a couple of things here. So again, when you're talking about playbooks, the current playbooks at this moment are going to be different than they are in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Like
Mhm.
they're always putting out new playbooks. There's almost always one going on the site. Usually they're
Daily
1 week.
active. Can I ask you a
Yes.
question real fast? So you
Yeah.
said opening up, this was new, a daily playbook. Does that mean that there's like instead of the challenges being like you have X number of weeks to do it, you have to get in? It's one of those things where you log in every day and there's a new one?
That's exactly right. It's to promote daily engagement, right? So the idea is if you go into the daily activity playbook and you start to see, hey, this today's activity is this. right? And you get yardage for logging in at least once, which is great. But then every day there's a new activity that you need to go in and complete. And this is the first time they've ever done this. This is unique. This is very different. And it's a way to try to make people, in theory anyway, come back to the site every day for 2 weeks. I like what they're doing here too. And NFL All Day, I think, is doing a great job trying to make it more engaging for the fans. They're really listening to the collectors and kind of seeing, okay, what's the best way to get everybody on the site and kind of making sure everybody's here. So if you scroll down even on that page, you'll notice that there is only one challenge that you can complete, right? The others are all upcoming, and it just says, task not completed. Well, TBD. We don't know what the next day's activities are. Every day at 4:00 Eastern, they release a new playbook task. And so then that old one becomes expired or completed based on whether or not you submitted the moments. And then the new one opens up, and it might be submit a tight end moment. It might be submit your favorite moment from your favorite team. I mean, so far they've been very simple and very easy. This is meant to be engaging. But the catch is there could be some things that are, more rare and more special.
Well, this one looks pretty. Submit a moment from a defensive player to get me 10 yards. I ought to do that. I got 6 hours left. I don't think I have any defensive plays, though, now that I'm thinking about it. I think all my plays are offensive right now.
Well, and that's kind of the other fun thing, right? If you only have defense, this might be a good excuse to say, all right, well, I need to go get some offensive plays. I don't have any of those, right? That's the whole point of all of this.
Yep.
It's trying to make it so that you can expand your collection for some sort of goal, for some sort of reason. And again, with all the moments on the site, I mean, how do you even decide, right? I don't want to buy an Adam Thielen moment, but heck, for $2 and to complete this challenge, I like that moment enough. I'll take it, right? That's the point of this. It's to help new users grow their collection.
Love it. I think this is a really cool mechanism. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a handful of these come out over the summer.
For sure. Yeah. Again, there was one that just finished. There was the May 1 through 8 playbook. I actually labeled it with the date. That finished obviously on the 8th, and there's already rewards from that incoming. So usually it takes a couple of days after the playbook ends. That timeline is even getting faster. So again, the rewards used to take a week or so to come out. And during the season, they do a playbook every week, right? So every week of the NFL schedule, there will be a new playbook that you can complete, tasks to do. And then once that week ends, that new playbook comes out and you get to do that week's playbook. And it's usually things like, submit a moment or submit 5 moments from players that caught a touchdown, or submit 10 moments from anybody that played a snap, like something like that, just to kind of increase the ability of collections. Then there are things what we call bottlenecks too, which is kind of interesting, where it says, submit the moment for the player with the most yards. And it turns out it's only Dameon Pierce had the most yards, but his only moment is a legendary or a rare moment. Well, that means I have to go buy that rare moment to get those yards if I want to complete that playbook. So it kind of makes it so a little bit of chaos, a little bit of fun, a little bit of predictability. Because again, I'm not going to necessarily think Adam Thielen's going to have the most yards, but if he does, that could change things and that could make his value go up on the marketplace.
Yeah.
So again, it's a way to maybe then say, and we talk about this a lot in the Discord, is like, well, do I want to complete the playbook or do I want to sell into it? If I bought a $2 moment that is now worth $8 because everybody's going after it, maybe I sell that moment and just say, I'm not going to complete this week, but I'll take the profit and put that back into the ecosystem. So again, it's just another way to interact with the fans.
And focus in on next week. That's what's up.
Yeah, and the good players are always better, right? Just like in fantasy. You don't necessarily want a bunch of roster cloggers on your bench in fantasy. You want to have the Saquon Barkleys, the Christian McCaffreys, the Austin Ecklers, right? So those moments are generally a little bit more expensive too, because the demand is a little bit higher. But for playbook's sake, that's something you always want to have on hand too. Is like, well, I want to get the debut for Travis Etienne because they're always going to do a reward or some sort of challenge could require a debut moment from a running back that scored a touchdown. Well, Etienne's got a good chance to do that, so let me get his moment. And it's a way to help build your collection with things that you like, but to also utilize them and to use your fantasy knowledge too, right? If we're talking both ways, this is something that you can kind of branch over and say, well, I know a lot about fantasy. A lot of what the playbook does is fantasy related or football related enough, just like fantasy is, that it's a very simple transition. So that's kind of what I like about it, is that it's fantasy, but in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, fantasy people will definitely have a well, I mean, it all comes back to the value, and the reward center in our brains, So if we, if a lot of people see the same play and it means a lot, that's going to bring a financial bump to, or a meaningfulness bump to that play in the playbook. It's much more likely that the 4th down, touchdown catch by David Njoku, over the center is going to become a really meaningful moment than, the week before where he just had a 1st down, touchdown. You know what I mean? Like you have, by knowing fantasy, by knowing the stakes that are involved in these plays and the teams, you're definitely going to have a little bit more of an edge on speculating, the ups and downs of the trajectory of a specific moment, or if it may even show up in the pack. I'm sure this on Sundays you watch moments and you're probably like, "Oh, that's definitely making it in the pack this week," and that
Oh
must be
yeah.
kind of another kind of fun thing too, especially when even if it's a player you're not playing for or with on your team, you're playing against him in fantasy. At least you can get that small win. Okay, well that 80-yard run just totally crushed me in fantasy. But I know for a fact that that's going to be big this week in the playbook, and that's going to help me. So again, it just adds another level of engagement and entertainment. So that our first down was what is the playbook. I feel
Yep.
like we kind of touched on the second down, which was why. But again, the why it seems to be the unlocking mechanisms that they do provide. Is there anything else you want to talk about, like on that second down sort of point of view, where why you would focus on playbooks, and what the sort of pros and cons of that may be?
Sure thing. Yeah. So the second down being why do we focus on the playbook? Well, my logic is kind of what I just said. It's fun. That's the easiest way to put it, right? This is something else to do.
Mhm.
It's another way to use your football knowledge and to kind of engage with the game in a very different way, right? So that's partially why. But the other thing is why should you focus on playbooks? Well, like I said again too, these mint to completion rewards. These are unique challenge rewards that you can only get by completing. And once the challenges are over and the playbook ends, then you see people selling that moment on the marketplace. Well, if it's something where maybe it costs you $18 worth of moments to purchase to get into the playbook, and then you end up with a rare moment that's worth $25. I'd rather buy the moments and have the extra ability and flexibility for future playbooks and then earn that moment for cheaper than buying it on the marketplace, right? So the other
That's
twist to
so
that too, though,
smart.
is you get these other rewards as well. You get like banners and trophies and things like that, which we haven't seen a lot of utilization for, but I see that coming too. But at the same time, it's just another way to engage. Like I said, it's another way to use the platform for fun, and ultimately, that's the whole point, right? We're football fans first. And like you said too, if I see an 80-yard run by a player that I'm playing against in fantasy, I can be like, man, that was a damn good run. I'm excited for that to come out and own that moment because that was a really good run. At the same time, too, like a lot of these mint to completion rewards, what they'll say is, it'll be a mint to completion reward based on whatever the best play was of the week. And so there are things where you don't even know what the moment's going to be until the playbook comes out or until it finishes, even in some cases. And you just know I'm going to get that mint to completion. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be good. And I think that's part of the other thing is that focusing on this playbook allows you not only to grow your collection and have a good time, but also use your moments for something that is not just sitting there in a digital wallet, right? It's something that actually gives some value to these.
I got some thoughts, my guy. I mean, you know me, I'm always big brain and stuff. So I'm over
Mm-hmm.
here. I'm just going to throw it out because why not? Um, in the future, I could see a world where NFL All Day either integrates with NFL fantasy, sleeper, DraftKings. Obviously, they have a ton of, money pushing them forward. There's going to be a world in the future where you're going to have the option to where if you like, let's say, okay, I'm explaining this wrong. Let's say a big play happens. Let's say Mark Andrews catches a game-winning touchdown, right? There's a world where NFL All Day has a select partnership with NFL Fantasy, and the only people who get that moment, it's going to be like airdropped into the app for them, and you're going to have it if he was in your lineup and only if you won. And we're going to end up in a world where specific situations like that are going to, I think, maybe increase or add different value to those plays. And I think that could be really, really interesting to where now, when you're setting your lineup on Sunday, you're not just thinking about, am I going to win? You're like, who could potentially has the most upside for a moment, and how could I maybe get into that? And these are all very far off sort of mechanisms and
Well,
machinations.
I don't
But
want to cut you
imagine
off, but
being the
I
guy.
do want to interject. I want to
Yeah,
interject. There is something that we'll get into down the road called OTM Rumble, and it actually utilizes your moments in a DFS style tournament where you can actually win money. So
yeah,
that is coming. I don't want to mislead you.
yeah.
That is something that is happening.
I was going to say that's something that I think that we're going to see is where owning the moment is going to become even more meaningful because now it's not you just buy it afterwards. Now you can only get it if you have to run, or I'm sorry, you can only get that moment if you played that player that week. So it's an interesting sort of future thing I could see happening, And it makes sense that they would want to integrate NFTs into these platforms because again, it's ownership, That's one thing that's a really big issue in my opinion on sleeper and fantasy in general is you'll look at people's teams and you'll see their profile. You can't really tell a whole lot about that person's fantasy, lifestyle. That was one of the things about Yahoo back in the day. Yeah, if you need to run, go ahead. I'll
Yeah,
pull you
I
out.
got to run real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll pull you out. We'll be back in just a second. I can keep it going. But that's one of the things about fantasy too. Yahoo used to always have, you could see somebody's record. You could see if they had won their leagues, if they lost their leagues, where they finished overall, and you kind of got a level of credibility and clout. And the reality is those things do matter in society. But in fantasy right now, anybody can just make a new account. Anybody can join a million leagues. You click somebody's name, you don't really know much about them. Even on Underdog or somewhere like that, you'll see somebody, they might have a badge, but you can't ascertain anything about that person's play style. You can't really sum up your opponent in fantasy just looking at a screen name. But if you could look at these sort of moments, or if you could look at these little imprints of their fantasy career, and maybe they get some sort of relative score that goes with that, that would be something I could see happening in the future with moments. Again, this is years down the road. Right now everything's about acquiring money and acquiring daily active users and making your company, your brand, appear busy. It's not necessarily about creating good products. It's not necessarily always about creating meaningful stuff right now, as much as it is about creating interaction. But I think that the people that stick around after the interactions kind of fade off are going to help build into this whole utilization, shall we say. So I think that we could see a world where these moments, that's kind of why I'm getting into NFL all day now, is because it just makes sense. These moments are burned into our heads anyway. I mean, I can't even tell you some of the random players in fantasy that I've remembered who did nothing really in the NFL. No shade, Sterling Shepard, love you to death. Dude won me one of my first fantasy leagues ever. So, I mean, I will never forget his week 5 game. I don't remember exactly what it was. He had like 24 points. It was right before he went out with a bunch of concussions. But it's like those moments, if I had that moment in my wallet and I could look back on it and, kind of just show him some love, double tap it, every once in a while. Vice versa, same team, fucking Slayton, Darius Slayton, same team, totally obliterated one of my seasons. I think he had like a 36-point game week 3 2 years ago. Totally demolished me. I was up on this guy. I'll never forget it. Up on this guy, probably 20 points. All he had left to play was Darius Slayton on Monday night. Easy win, right? No, wasn't an easy win. I lost. That loss cost me the entire season, basically. I could never recover from it. Should have won. So moments. These things have visceral meaning to a lot of people, on the good and the bad. And for the guy who beat me, he probably pay up for a Darius Slayton moment. So I'm very curious to see how this sort of continues to blend into the overall, I call it the fantasy or the NFL media conglomerate. You know what I mean? Like there's so many tree branches or streams, that come off the giant mountain that is the NFL media. It all trickles down, and some, you have a water pitcher, you can catch, you can pan for gold out here. So that's what we're doing with NFL all day. And why it's just been me by myself for the last minute or two. My man Andrew, obviously a Renaissance man, he's doing it all at once. He's working, he's doing a podcast, he's building his house. You know what I'm saying? So I had to let him slide out for just a sec. But I think for third down today, what we were going to do, what we have here, is how do you participate in the playbooks, the challenges, and then the burns. Do not the daily playbook. So you don't want to burn the daily playbook, looks like. I'm probably going to just, I guess I'm just going to keep ad-libbing. I'm going to pull back up the give me 1 second, y'all. Here we go. So I'm going to pull this back up. We're going to look around the site just a little bit. Here we go. So this is the playbook we are here. Actually, I want to look at some playbooks that maybe I'm working on. So I haven't even started this playbook. My collection is very small, just a handful of players. I don't have a lot of money on here, / I don't think I have any money. I'm not big on selling. I'm a big collector. I don't like flip or anything, but there are a few players that I'm looking for. So I should probably consider doing the starter playbook right out the gates. It actually might be a fun thing to do for me. Maybe in a separate video, I'll do the starter playbook just to walk y'all through it. That would be kind of fun. Let's take a look here at my collection. Yeah, like I said, you guys know I don't have a lot of plays. I only have 3. But I really, they're all common. But I don't think, common, what does that even mean? I think the Mike Evans play is just incredible. Kareem Hunt, Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack with the Broncos. He's still with the Broncos, too. Low key, I hear a lot of people talk about Samaje P. Ryan. Marlon Mack's still out there, y'all. Don't forget about him. Don't forget about Marlon Mack. I'm not going to make y'all watch this Marlon Mack play. All right. Oh, that's cool. Interesting. Well, I don't have a pause button. I kind of want to pause this, but I can't. So I'm going to just keep rocking and rolling. Our moment of the day for episode 2 is actually going to be a really good one. It's an offensive moment. I'm waiting for Andrew to get back, though, to show you all. But we are going to be watching Jamar Chase pull off a big catch, which should be a good time. I don't have any Jamar Chase moments. I should probably look into those. If we're talking moments, and I'm just going to tell you, from my point of view, a moment or a player that I think is going to go up in value tremendously is a player who we will talk about soon in the next playbook or next play of the week, moment of the week. But it's Aiden Hutchinson, a little early alpha here for you. Max Crosby, right now he is pretty much up there at the apex of NFL defenders. When he got drafted, it wasn't like that. People will retcon history, say they were huge Max Crosby fans, that they loved him. He was drafted in the 3rd round. Nobody wanted him. PFF graded him like dog shit his rookie season. He didn't get anywhere near enough pressures for anybody that is a pressure head. He did get a lot of tackles for loss, and he was a hustle player, though. And he had plenty of sacks. But the pressures weren't there, and the grades weren't there, so a lot of people didn't like him. Fast forward to now, he's one of the highest paid defensive ends in the league. Hustle play is still there. Tackles for loss are still there. All he's really done is increase his presser numbers and his tackle numbers a lot. Same player, same Max Crosby. So a player who I think has a similar sort of career trajectory as Max Crosby with a little bit more oomph in him because of his draft capital, Aiden Hutchinson. Plays with a similar level of tenacity, a go-getter, drafted to a team, the Lions, who's similar to the Raiders, or have a little bit of a narrative come up, what I'm saying? People pushing them to the forefront, shall we say. So Aiden Hutchinson moments, based on what's happening right now and on the Lions, overall, the team's equity, brand equity, I think is going to continue to ascend. That should be good for Aiden Hutchinson. So if you see any defensive moments out there that are common for Aiden Hutchinson, he's a defensive player that I think you can pretty safely invest in. And this is not financial advice, obviously. Pretty safely, though, I think that his trajectory is going to be more positive going forward than negative. So, all right, Andrew's back. Yay!
Sorry about that. Welcome back.
Don't worry. The people just had an 7-minute ad lib that they'll never remember and they'll want to forget. So
I love it. Well, do we want to move into 3rd down?
Yeah, let's do that. I kind of finished up the 2nd down. I told him, why you want to do it. Next, we had the how do you participate in the playbook.
We hit on this a little
burning mechanism. I did kind of see the burn here. You don't want to burn him daily, so I'll just let you jump.
Yeah, here's the thing, and I kind of hit on this before. There's 2 different ways to submit your moments. Submitting them just really says I have this moment in my collection. It's verified. Burning is where that moment is destroyed forever from the marketplace. It is literally burned. And every time there's a burn challenge, it will require you to type the word burn. So it's not going to be done by accident. You're not going to accidentally burn something unless you type the word burn. And burn means that serial number is removed forever. So again, if there are 10,000 Jalen Reagor moments, in Series 1, there was a Jalen Reagor moment. I think it was 10,000, mint count. I think there's been 3,000 Jalen Reagor moments that have been burned. So that mint count has dropped to 7,000 now because everybody's burning Jalen Reagor because we all kind of decided as a community, we don't need Jalen Reagor moments. There's no value to that. Nobody really needs a Jalen Reagor moment.
Jalen Reagor moments, but Jalen Reagor and his mama.
Well, and I don't mind having one because the more that they get burned, the more rare it becomes. So you still want to have one, right? But there were people buying them up and burning them specifically because it was lowering that mint count. Kind of like what you said earlier, where it lets the community decide, hey, we don't like this moment, or we don't like this player, we don't like this whatever. And so you can kind of gang up and do that to some things. And I've seen some other players and other people do that in the Discord, and we call it firewood, right? Because you're literally just buying these moments to burn. Like I'm just buying the $2 moments. And that's actually what I would recommend a lot of new collectors do today is start buying moments that you like. But if you see something at that $1 or $2 mark that's got a badge, that's got a debut or something like that, I would say buy a couple of those if you can afford it. And if it's something you like, even if it's something you don't. But as you get more into the platform, you'll realize it's nice to have some common moments that I can just burn to unlock premium rewards on some things. So that's kind of where the other catch comes in. For a lot of these playbooks, the main thrust of this is you might get a pack or something for free without having to burn anything. But some of these mint to completion moments require you to burn 1, 5, or even 10 common moments to unlock that premium ability to get that reward. So if you're burning 10 $2 moments, there's $20 you're literally burning, plus whatever it costs you in the playbook. So in some situations, like in Pro and All Pro, those 2 and 3 tier kind of harder playbooks, they might require you to burn a rare moment to kind of earn a better rare or a legendary moment. So again, it's kind of like what you were saying before with that trading in, but the majority of the challenges and the majority of the work in playbook is what we call submitting a moment, which is totally different. It is something that still stays in your collection. It just says verifying I own this moment pretty much, but burning very different. And so I want to make sure we clarify that for new users. You don't have to burn everything, right? You can make that decision. And that's why I like the Discord too, because you can talk about the value of things in there and say, here's what we're doing, right? So that's kind of the logic.
Yeah. That makes sense. One is proof of ownership to complete, and one is proof of destruction. Proof of action. So It's like, just by owning this, that verifies that you've done the accomplishment. But the burn mechanism, you actually have to forfeit or sacrifice, and get biblical. Throw a moment on the altar, stab it through the heart, set it on fire, and hopefully God will rain down a better moment upon you. That sounds
something like that. Yes.
Sounds like the concept. Sounds like a pretty easy concept to understand too. Since the dawn of time, you pay it in blood, you get it back in blessings. Hopefully,
that's right. Well, that's pretty much the gist. I just wanted to make sure we ran through some of that.
Excellent. Well, I think for 30 minutes we've pretty much run down a pretty good understanding of playbooks. Hopefully, people are okay with my little monologue. While you were gone, I did give them a little bit of a not financial advice about Aiden Hutchinson. Kind of compared him to Max Crosby and said, if Max Crosby's hot right now, but he was a 3rd round pick, and after his first season, people were not into him, so that was a buy moment, again, not financial advice, but
right.
Aiden Hutchinson, people are into Aiden Hutchinson, and he's on a team that's got a good trajectory. So there might be a little, if you want to compare players with someone with a little more upside, keep an eye on little Hutch over there.
Well, that's the way to do everything in this space, right? Yeah. Same as fantasy, buy low, sell high, literally.
You always, and that's the thing too. If people are talking about a player, it's too late. That's the thing. If Max Crosby's big in the conversation, that means he's been good, and it took a while for people to realize it. So,
well, all we got left is the moment of the week. Do you want to pull that up real quick?
Let me see if I can pull her on up here. We're gonna finish
talk about it while you pull it up. So this week's moment of the week is the Jamar Chase playoff series 2 moment. Now, I am a Bengals fan. I think anybody watching can see that. I've got Bengals everywhere. I'm wearing a Bengals shirt. Bengals are my team, right? Jamar Chase is my man. I love Jamar Chase. One hell of a baller. Dynasty and 1 QB, maybe the number 1 overall pick, right? So it's one of those things that Jamar Chase is just a beast, and his moments are amazing every single time. But I picked this one because it was, well, yeah, if you want to pull it up, that's fine. But this moment here is phenomenal in my mind. This is the 4th down catch that he had in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, where, again, it was all kind of on the line here. And the fact that he came down with this catch was just phenomenal. And I remember watching this, of course, and being like, jumping up and down, screaming in my living room, my wife getting all upset with me because it was like, calm down. I'm like, you got to be kidding. I can't calm down. This catch was amazing. So this was our moment of the week. Jamar Chase, playoff rare moment again. And this one's the one that I own is number 318 out of 500. And I gladly own this moment. This is not a debut. It's not a rookie, but my God, it's a great moment. What do you think about this one?
Well, it's coming through kind of slow, and I hate that for us. So I'm going to pull out of this and see. Maybe if I refresh the opening page, it'll come through a little faster.
Or just leave it on this page. It'll play. Yeah.
There we go.
Real choppy. But either way, people get the idea. If you're listening, of course, too, you get the idea. This is an amazing play. You can watch if you want to own the moment.
This is some historical shit.
Yes.
This is 4th down. I remember this play. Tyreek had a play just like this against the Ravens. In a similar situation a couple years before, where Mahomes they were like 4th and 18. What is this, 4th and 8 or something like that? And you just throw it to your best guy.
Yeah. Put it up there. Let him go get it. That's exactly what I love about this play. It's just phenomenal. So yeah, that's our moment of the week this week. Jamar Chase, my boy. That's right. One hell of a game. Now we lost that game, right? And Chiefs went on to the Super Bowl, but that's a hell of a play. 4th and 6. Amazing. I
You
own
got
that
the
moment.
winning
That is a part
moment,
of my
though, okay?
collection. Yep. Had to own that one.
Awesome.
Had to own that one.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, yeah, $32 ass too. I might snatch it out from under you, bro. You better watch out.
Wait,
And I'll
I'm not
raise the
selling
price.
mine. That's just the lowest ass. That's not mine. I'm not selling that one. No, that's in my
Oh, okay,
collection.
I got
You
you.
go get your
Oh,
own.
okay, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, okay. All right. Well, I don't have much else to say. I feel like we did a good job covering the playbooks. Moment of the
Yeah.
week was awesome. It's something, again, it's one of those things where it involves you. It's an interesting ecosystem. It's definitely taking something to dive into. The playbook part of it is something I think that I'm actually going to like once I kind of get few more moments kind of stocked up here and there and everywhere, because that's going to allow me to have some control over, how my collection continues to grow and manifest. And, eventually I'm going to have to find some way to flex. I think that's the big thing right now is we got to find a way to flex the collection. And then I
Oh
think that's
yeah.
going to push popularity up a little bit. But
We'll
in
get
the
into
meantime,
that.
I'm going to try to acquire some flexible moments. So
That's
any
right.
final words before we hop off of the NFL all day, both ways pod here, my guy?
I think we're good. We covered all three downs. Let's punt the hell out of here, man. I'm good to hear. I'm good to hear you. Good to talk to you. Good to hear your voice and all that. And obviously that dialogue, I'll have to listen back. I can't believe I missed it. But
Yeah.
make sure you follow us on Twitter at All Day Both Ways. Follow me, Andrew Hall at Andrew Hall FF, and then obviously follow Jordan Rains at 50 Shades of Drunk. We really appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming and listening, and we'll check you on the next one.
Yep. Podcast feed, follow there. YouTube channel, follow there. Thumbs up, subscribe. We appreciate you. We will be bringing more content to you. NFL all day, both ways. That's how we live. That's how we roll, baby. Let's go.